Triple Shot Mindset. And we're back, folks. It's a beautiful Friday in the middle of summer. We're here.
It sure is. Sure are.
And we've got stuff to say. First of all, how are you doing? Let's go around the room. How's everyone doing today? What's the vibe?
Very well. Very well.
Excellent.
Even though we may not be, we're going to say very well so that our mind doesn't control our bodies.
So toxic positivity, where you deny the reality in favor
No,
of
I'm not denying anything, lady. I'm just saying sometimes if you put too much energy into the negative, you're going to make yourself a believer in that.
You're right.
Reality, yeah.
And that kind of has to do with today's topic a little bit.
Does it?
Don't you think?
How do we spin that into that?
I'm going to do it for you in a second. What about you?
I'm doing great.
Doing great.
In about 4 weeks from now, I will have hair.
I'm so excited for you.
Well, fake hair. Wow.
Hey, you don't have to even say that part.
I'm just going to have hair.
He's going to have hair.
Yeah. In about 5 weeks from now, I'm going to have my third boob removed from under my armpit. It's great.
Oh, my God.
Right.
I'm the only one not getting a cosmetic treatment right now.
Oh, in about 5 weeks from now, I'm going to have a dental implant.
You're going to have a tooth and hair?
Yeah.
Holy shiz. What color, just out of curio?
I'm thinking ivory.
No, not the tooth.
Oh. The hair?
The hair.
Red, of course. What color do you think?
Well, look. Is it going to be black?
Yeah. My artist, she said,
The nurse, you mean?
You want more pepper or more salt? More pepper, bruh.
Now, why do people believe that pepper should always be black? Because we have pepper that's also white.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or we have pink salt.
Yes, we do. So why don't we say white and pink?
That's why we have the feminists doing the pink hair.
Because they're salty.
Yeah. Himalayan salt.
Right.
This is such a great start to this conversation today.
It really is. So getting back to your mindset thing. Oh, let me just, since no one asked. Yes, I'm doing great.
How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you.
Great.
So, Ards.
Me?
YOU. You said sometimes you can't fall into a negative mindset.
Yeah.
Now, you've been through some shit in your day. Both of you have.
A whole bunch of shit.
Survived a war, survived leaving a country, survived living in this country during a time in which bigotry and racism were at an all-time high. Then marriage, heartbreak,
Biggest
divorce.
biggest failure of my life. No, I'm kidding. It wasn't the biggest failure. To me, it was a perfectly balanced, well-timed period of my life that had to happen and had to end. And a lot of people, their marriages have to end too, except they don't want to go through the pain of growth and being alone. So to me, it was a good thing. But one of the things that came out of my divorce, right before the divorce, my ex-wife, let's call her Nona. We're not going to say XXXX to me. That has a negative connotation.
Is Nona her name?
Yeah, Nona is her name.
Okay, I was just checking because you said, let's call her Nona. Like sometimes people say with a fake name, Susie or something.
So Nona used to tell me, I need to go home and complain all the time. Like, oh, my clients are a-holes, or they canceled on me, and, my friends are stupid, or, my coworkers are not supportive. And so she's like, the one thing I see in common with all that is you. How are you showing up that all this stuff gets permeated into your consciousness and subconsciousness? Why is it that you have all these issues? Why is it that you can't come home one day and say, I have great clients, I have great friends, I have great coworkers, I have great luck, I have great whatever? Why is it that always you're talking about the negative? And to me, I'm like, well, I can be the dopey one in the family. I can be the Ray Romano sounding one. Until we got divorced. And this was like 6 months after we had this conversation. We got divorced. And I started thinking about all the stuff she had told me. And I believed that she was 100% right. And so I poured gasoline on the fire. And that was one of my one of the reasons I had to change. Because I thought to myself, she put up with all that stuff, right? She put up with my negativity.
I don't want to put up with my negativity either, or the next person or whatever. So from now on, if someone asks me, how are you doing? My chest may be hurting. My back may be hurting. I may have sinus infection. I may have a few clients that I've canceled, but I'm not going to like make that my identity. And the more I push myself away from negative things, a lot of things that happen to me now become happening for me. So I no longer think, oh, 3 clients canceled. How come this is happening to me? I think of myself as someone who can see it from a point of view that is a positive thing that happened. Even if I lose all my clients one day, I'll think to myself that there's a reason this happened. God or the universe is pushing me to do something better, something different in my life. And this is what it took for that to happen. So I no longer subscribe to people asking me how I'm doing. I'm saying, oh, man, my kids are driving me crazy, because those things are all blessings in disguise most of the time. So to answer your question, I'm doing well. Yeah.
I love it. I have questions. Do you have questions, Kev?
No.
Then here I go.
Please.
What? Okay, I have a lot of questions. Let me start with the simple one first. Do you think if Nona had not departed from your life, you would have come to this realization?
No.
So how did that pattern interrupt turn you into this?
When you think you're standing on solid ground and all of a sudden it falls from under you, you can either go down or go down swinging, right? So a lot of people say, oh, man, this happened, but I'm not going to change my behavior. I am who I am. I'm not going to change. Like someone like my dad would say, I am who I am. Take it or leave it. And I've heard a lot of guys say that. And they're going to get the same issues happen to them in life until their soul learns a lesson from that and grows from that. So I figured I can either go through another 40 years of saying, I am who I am, take it or leave it, to the next person, to myself, the guy in the mirror, or I can actually change and elevate my self and my soul to the next level and see how that feels like.
But not everyone chooses to do that. Okay, I have more questions. You could have gone down this path of just like embracing your comfort items. And I say items, but I mean like people too. Like family members, TV.
Yeah.
Vices of any kind.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you eliminated comfort things from your life completely, but it sounds to me like this made you hit rock bottom and you sort of embraced the rock bottom a little bit instead of pushing it away. And I know you saw this probably better than anyone, Kevin, because you're the closest to him, I think, of the souls on this earth.
When I was moving out of my Nona's house, our house.
Yep.
Now it's Nona's house. When I was moving out, she gave me a bit of advice. Nona did. She said, if I were you, I wouldn't sign up for TV, cable TV. If I were you, I wouldn't take your video game. If I were you, I would not entertain your mind away from what just happened. I know it's going to be comforting to do all that, and it's going to be comforting for you to go to your mom and brother and friends and complain about what happened. But I still love you, and I don't want you to go down that route. Use this as a catalyst to make that change you want to. And I thought I owe it to myself and the 10 years we were married to give that a try, because for years I didn't say, well, I am who I am. But I'm like, well, this is my time to actually do that. And I didn't watch TV for, you know that.
I remember.
I haven't watched TV. I mean, I just watched a few episodes of...
That I recommended in the last month.
Which was what? What was it called?
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
I also said first episode of Walking Dead if you want to see some really great screenwriting.
But I didn't do that. I didn't go home to my mom or brother or go out with friends and drinking and talk about what a bad person she was.
Yeah.
Like
and
I didn't
fall
want
into
to
the
do that.
entertainment hole.
So you have to be aware of where you are and where you want to be. And if something's going to derail you from that goal, like these short-term needs must be trumped for what you want long-term. So even though, my brother or my dad or, people said, just get cable TV, man. Just watch a few games. And I know watching a couple of games here and there, like basketball games or baseball or whatever, isn't going to, hurt me. But I know that I can get drawn into it if I don't have that. So, for example, a few days ago, my kids and I, we went and bought cupcakes, right? A week ago. And got cupcakes. And great cupcakes. Like, it's a chocolate one that my son had for his birthday. So I went and got 6 cupcakes. And it's like 2 for each. And I brought them home. And one of the kids made a comment like, Daddy, like, your tummy is getting big. And so I took my 2 and I threw it in the trash can. And I did it in a way so I couldn't
get them back out.
Salvage them because it was a brand new garbage bag.
Did you piss on it?
No, but you have to
throw
have
it face down really hard.
Yeah, and then you put something disgusting on top, like, I don't know, 2-month-old carrot juice at the box and the bottle is like
blown up.
You just open it up and you pour that pungent thing on top.
Yeah.
Just to make sure you don't do that. Or I told my son to go hide my remote, right? Because after I watched Stranger Things, I'm like, oh, let's see what Netflix has to offer next. And I gave it to Ryan. I'm like, until next week when you guys come here, take this remote and go hide somewhere. Because I know that sometimes I get weak. Sometimes I'm like, well, one show's not going to hurt, or a bite of this cupcake's not going to hurt me. But you have to have that discipline to get through it. Yeah.
Discipline. What made you listen to Nona?
I think she always cared about my well-being. And never did she say things out of spite or trying to get back at me. I think she's a true friend. Because even though we went through a divorce, she still looks out for me. And she says, for example, you should get on stage next weekend and, whatever, because that's going to push you to get that shell of yours.
I don't think she's a true friend. I know she's a true friend.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that I hear from him, it's never negative, bring me down. It's always positive, lift me up.
Yeah, she always wants to lift me up. So I didn't listen to a lot of her advice because she was my safety net. Like once you're married, once you have a family, someone becomes a safety net. And even though as a man, I should have been the safety net, I'm like, well, this is comfortable. I'll be the safety net. She'll be the one who worries about people's growth. And that's one of the reasons we had to break up, because she was like on a different trajectory and I was the dead weight. So after we did get the divorce, I'm like, I need to see what this girl's talking about. And when I started doing it, now she looks at me she's like, wow, you're not the same person. And when people get married, they're not the same person when they get a divorce, let alone me. She's like, not only didn't I recognize you towards the latter years of our marriage, but this is someone that I've never seen before. And it's sad that people save their best version for after they get divorced. They start working out, they start wearing cologne, they start doing their hair.
Yep.
But that's all outside stuff. And I have friends who they go get boob jobs, this job, nose jobs, which is great for the first impression. Mm-hmm. But you got to live with someone eventually, and you got to bring your A game. And 90% of these people I know, they don't bring their A game because they don't work on themselves. So that was my push to change myself as quickly and as 180 degree away from who I was. And I never want to go back to that person. That's why I push for friends and family members that if they haven't done that, do it, because it's scary once you are changing. You look at things differently. The things that had meaning to you on a superficial level no longer have that meaning. and it's going to become lonely. You're going to have friends that don't want to talk to you anymore because you don't want to partake in their negative conversations. But you got to do it. And now I'm in a better place. And now I can live with myself. Even if I go for the rest of my life alone, I'm really happy with that. With me being alone by myself, because I'm my own safety net.
Oh my God, that was so good. That's one of the most brilliant things you've ever said.
Really?
Brill. Yeah.
This week, you mean? This week.
Today, because every day. So it's another nugget of whiz. Would you like to add to that, Kevs?
No, because I don't. I mean, I get what he's saying, everything he said, but I think when you're in a relationship, you stop trying to improve, and in a weird way, you actually go backwards, because if the other person's half of this whole entity, right? You're like, okay, if I don't even have to try anymore. It applies to everything, not just you being, a stronger person, but even like being the person you were before. You do stuff before, like you take care of yourself, but now that somebody's accepted you, you're like, oh, okay, stop trying.
Yep.
Fortunately for me, though, I've never had that mentality that, okay, I'm going to stop, because I never did stuff for others. I did for me. Sometimes you say, oh, you don't have to like dress up. You're not seeing anybody today. I'm seeing myself in the mirror, and that's important. I shower because
We all shower, don't we, Amanda?
Yeah.
On a daily basis.
So, I mean, I do things for me. I watch the things I want to watch, for example. I do the things I want to do. Yes, now there's consideration for the other person's plans too, but I think fortunately I am strong enough that if we don't align 100%, I'm okay with that. If we don't align 50%, as long as I get to do what I want to do.
You may not align, which is fine. Like, no one's going to be the same exact identical version of their spouse. But what my problem is, and what I've noticed, that as much as you try not to, the lower one always drags down the higher flying one, right? And it's just human nature. Like, you can have the best of friends, people who like, they say, you do that, you I do me. But eventually the lower common denominator always wins.
I disagree.
You may be the exception.
If you have it in you that I'm going to uphold my standards, these are things that are important, I'm not going to compromise, you're not going to fall for that.
I'm not saying you're going to change your non-negotiables. But I've noticed that and this is true, and you can say no, but in my household, which like I thought I'm the, enlightened one as well, when it came down, let's say, to watching TV, right? She said, let's not watch TV at all. I'm like, well, we could watch something while we eat our Big Macs, right? I thought that we were compromising and we both wanted the same things. But when she said, let's not watch TV, I didn't know what that meant. But so the TV had to be on for my sake, but we had to compromise on what we were going to watch. Like, this is a documentary. Or let's not eat unhealthy today, but Ardy wants like hot dogs. Maybe we can just hot dog. I'll just have it without the bun. You can have the hot dog with the bun. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like that. You can't go that far, because if you go, usually the person who is on the more common denominator side, they're going to feel threatened by this separation. And they're going to start trying to pull them back. Why do you really have to watch documentary? Do you really have to, like, why do you have to eat a salad all of a sudden? Like, yes, you try to uphold your stuff, but there's going to be met with resistance. And I think that's going to be the stress that evolves. And for me, it was stressful because I tried to constantly pull her down to my level because it was too difficult to rise up to hers at that point. So once you understand that and you know that, and if you look at, like, my personality type is INTP. I sit down and I analyze these behaviors now. Maybe my personality type has changed since I was, married till
that's
now.
totally possible.
I think it's possible because now I analyze things in so many different ways, not in a bad way, but I see things for what they are, and I understand where the trajectory of that situation is going, and I can either put a stop to it or continue with it because now I see those things. So it is tough when you have a partner for them to be on the same page, unless they're wired that way when they come into the marriage or the relationship. Unless they're wired like that and you're like very similar in those aspects, then both of you can grow together and sustain that. But if you have someone who's constantly on this route and you're on that route, yes, you can do your separate things, but eventually that intimacy, that emotional and intellectual intimacy will start subsiding because you have less and less points of togetherness.
When I was engaged, that was exactly what happened in that relationship. I remember I was really inspired to...
With Vaughn's, right?
Yes. Okay, yeah. I was really inspired to meditate every day. I was fasting at the time. I was experimenting with fasting because I realized that it made my meditations like psychedelic drug experiences. That's how intense not having food in my system and doing like an hour meditation would be. And so I was fasting, I was meditating, I was all about like manifestation. I was just going through those stages when you're discovering your own power. Even though I didn't know who I was or what I really wanted necessarily, I was just discovering myself. And my partner at the time was constantly like, why are you doing all this? Like, can you just chill? Like, just chill. Like, figure out what you want. Like, why are you so much? Like, you're just so much to deal with. Like, let's just put on the TV. Let's just eat in front of the TV. Like, can't you just be normal? And I would be like, no, I can't. But I would make those compromises because I've always been, or at least historically, I've usually been the person who will be the first one to push aside my own comfort to make somebody else comfortable. So I was like, okay, I guess we'll eat. Okay, I'll break my fast or whatever. Then I started realizing that wasn't going to do it for me. I needed to do my thing. So our paths diverged. We could be in the same room, and I felt like I was totally alone. There was nothing to talk about. I had no interest in what he was putting on TV. He had zero interest in what I was doing, if not even repulsed by it. Like, you're just so much. You're such a burden on me, which always confused me. I was like, well, then why do you want me around? But it was a safety net thing.
Yeah. Nora told me that she felt alone, and I didn't know what that meant. I'm like, well, I'm sitting right here. We're in the same house. Yeah. But the depths of that, once you understand, once you're out of that and you grow and understand that, then you know that you can be with someone and do whatever you guys want to do together, but one person is always compromising. One person is always saying, okay, I'll do it for him or I'll do it for her. And to me, it's like, yeah, you can be different personalities. But if that distance becomes a little bit too much, you got to pull the plug. Yeah. Because it's not fair to that person or for you.
No. It's incompatibility.
Yeah.
That's what incompatibility is. And I think initially I really liked my fiance. I mean, obviously, we got engaged.
You said yes, correct?
Said yes.
Forcefully, yeah.
Although, well, there's a whole story behind that, but for another episode. Right. I liked the person that I was with him initially. But then as I was changing, as we all do, I realized I'm actually becoming a different person. And the person I'm becoming has nothing in common with him. That's a very difficult thing to realize because you can't stop yourself from becoming this other person. Mm. If you do, you'll have, I assume, all kinds of mental health problems because you're stopping your own evolution. But to remain with him would have been very unkind, very, very unkind on all kinds of levels. So I suppose now it's a matter of choosing a partner who you like, who you are with them. You feel like it's your peak instead of your comfort. You're like, oh no, I like being pushed to be the best version of myself with this person. It's exhilarating. And I know that as we evolve, at least for a while, it will be in the same direction.
In any relationship, there has to be compromise. Any relationship. Me and him, we're twins. USC said we are 98.5% identical.
Wow.
Even with that, we make compromises every day. So to think that there's going to be a relationship, that there's going to be no compromise, then you're gonna be alone.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way it works.
Yeah.
The trick is to find somebody that has the least amount of compromise needed. So yeah, I mean, personally, just in anything in my life, I don't compromise me. Yes, I will listen to other people, to my mom, to my brother, to my family, consider, and if it's not a deal breaker, okay, sometimes I shift this way. But my work ethic is always my work ethic. If I have to work, I have to work. I will bend for nobody to say, oh, you know what, stop working, let's do this. Nope, sorry. I won't bend for anybody for who I am, my values. I don't dump my friends because I have somebody in my life. I never do that. Those are non-negotiables. As for me, the big things, I don't negotiate. The small things, hey, you want to have sushi tonight or steak? Okay, you're hell-bent on steak. Let's do it this time. So my 2 cents to this is I absolutely agree. You should not compromise, but in any relationship, you have to compromise something tiny.
You can't compromise your self-worth. You can't compromise your core beliefs and all that. I remember one time we went to a Tony Robbins seminar, right? And a lot of people were having breakthroughs. They were crying. They were like, high-fiving. I had a new leash on life. Leash. I said leash. And everyone was like so excited, right? And at the end, Tony Robbins said something that's very stuck with me to this day. He said, a lot of you imagine how good you feel right now. And who here is not with their husband or wife or like, your significant other? And like half the people raise their hand. He's like, my warning is to you guys. You're going to go home. They're in a very low vibration state because they've been home for the past 5 days. You guys are in a very high vibrational state because you guys have been here. My warning is for you guys to go back. You're going to get pushbacks. People are going to get mad at you for, you left me for 5 days. You think this guru motherfucker knows anything? They're going to start shooting you down because they don't have the ability or the resources to be at that level and at that frequency. So watch for that. Watch for that because a lot of people who come to me, they do my first seminar, like UPW or whatever it is, you're not going to show up again. Because the next year you're going to say, hey, honey, I'm going to go for my second round of this. They're going to say, I really didn't like you doing that, and they're going to start like picking a fight with you to make you feel guilty so you don't go back. Because they see that you are in a vibrational thing that is way above what they are. You probably your eyes and ears and mind may open to other possibilities. Therefore, they're going to try to shoot it down. So, and he was right. Like a lot of people that I know that went there, the next day they had a fight with their wife or fight with their husband because now they're happy. They're like, wow, let's look at life in a different sense. So the only way that's going to work if the wife or the husband or the significant other has those same core values that I want growth. I want like financial freedom. I want, emotional intimacy. I want that. I want this and that. And I want to be able to let go of owning you and just being your partner. And I think a lot of people who are in an ownership type of a relationship, they are the one who's going to suffer when they start growing. If it's a true partnership, you both want to grow at the same time and support each other in your growth. So I remember that he said that, and at first I thought that's silly, but I mean, that's true. I've known people who have done that, and the very next day, even on the ride back from the airport, they started getting shit for it. So I think a true partnership, and that's why when I go out with people, and yeah, I do find people attractive, the ones who like swipe right on me. Don't want to take it back to dating again, but somehow it always ends up here. I like the looks of people. Like she's cute, she's hot, she's cute, she's hot. But then I have the awareness to think to myself, okay, you're just seeing a couple of eyelashes, probably fake. A couple of, boobs, probably fake. What does this person have in them? That's why when I talk to them as if I'm like having a philosophical discussion with them. I don't ask, what's your favorite color? Because that's not going to change, or that's not going to feed into my future with this person. Like, so what if you like purple and I like orange? Let's compromise on red. Like, who cares? But I asked them, like, what's your 3 to 5 year plan? How do you see yourself growing old? What are your visions and plans for your life? And if they have similar things like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm working towards certain visions, I have this kind of a relationship with my ex, and if they all line up with me, great, because those are less problems I have to try to make excuses for, try to let her understand down the road. So the people that I'm talking to or I'm engaging with at this point in my life, they already have those boxes checked off. It's just now a matter of chemistry or compatibility or whatever else. But I know that those core foundational things are in place.
Nice. Question for you, Kevin. How did you decide to be a person who doesn't compromise yourself? Like what age, what stage? What made that happen?
When I was growing up as a teenager, I was small. We both were very small, tiny. And then I realized the only thing I have is what's inside of me at this point. I was being judged. I realized whatever's inside me has to be very strong. And these are values that and I always take my mom's efforts in raising us very seriously. And she always reminds us, oh, you're royalty. Don't forget that. Remember where you came from. And so to me, values, ethics, morals are really, really important. Yeah, I'm not perfect, but I realize that this is what makes me, me. My mom always says, look at yourself in the mirror. All the qualities that I taught you, that's become Kevin. So when I'm with somebody, I don't really budge. This is me. I mean, yeah, it's not a, arrogant perspective, but it's like, these are the things I cannot compromise on. I was brought up this way. I have these standards. I was taught this. I'm not going to go backwards. So, I always look at myself in the mirror. And if I do something that's wrong, I beat myself up for it. If I am not to the standards I'm supposed to be at, I look at myself and say, fuck you for being so weak. Fuck you for being like this. You need to be better. Like when I wake up in the morning, my first instinct is I don't feel like showering. I don't want to go to work. I'm tired. Then I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, what the fuck are you saying, you retard? Beep that out. And then that gives me my, you know what? This is my standard. Pull myself up. This is what I expect of myself. Pull yourself up. So every day I challenge myself. And when somebody challenges me and says, oh, why do you do that? You don't have to work today. Well, just take the day off. I'm like, no, sorry. Because then I cannot, at the end of the day, I can look in the mirror the same way.
So those routines are great. I mean, I'm
talking about everything, by the way, everything. Small routines.
But here's the thing. If you were to, let's say, just like I did after my divorce, of course, but not prior. If you were to say, for example, to your wife or you to your next boyfriend or
I like the sound
lover
of that.
boy, right? If you had gone through like a year or 20 years worth of, doing the same thing and being comfortable with one another and doing all that stuff. And let's say you to your wife or you to your boyfriend said, you know what? I want more in life. Let's unplug the TV. Let's get rid of our phones. Let's just put them on silent, put them in the whatever. And at night, come and read and have a discussion about what we just read. And instead of having burgers and fries and pizza and, whatever, from now on, let's just go vegan. Right? Let's just have what Mother Earth gave us. And you know what? Let's go and join a hiking group and every Saturday and Sunday go hiking. And then I don't know many people would stay with that for a long time.
But you're saying it you're dictating to now the other person.
No, I'm trying to see.
No. It's like you're saying if you tell the other person, well, what if the other person tells you? You know what I'm saying?
That is a test to do to see if you guys are really deep down compatible or not. Because a lot of people
I've done it. We've turned off TVs. We've put the phones in baskets. Well,
you do that for maybe a week, 2 weeks. You've never done it for 6 months or a year to see really what happens.
But here's the thing. That's what I'm asking. Just because the suggestion comes from me, turn it around.
That's not.
No, but that's a test. That is a test in finding out.
Listen.
Okay.
If I am telling somebody, she's telling the boyfriend, honey, let's go vegan.
Yeah.
This is her suggestion.
Right.
So now the other person on the other end has to have no opinion whatsoever.
That's not what I said. That's why I said if you do that, let's say you want to do self-growth all of a sudden, or you want to go vegan all of a sudden, or you want someone to support you in your decisions, and you realize that either they are not on the same page as you are, that's not one of their core beliefs, or they don't support you in doing that because after 2 weeks, a month, they're going to say, come on, can't you just have a slice of pizza with pepperoni?
You know what
on
the
it?
support would not be? It would not supporting would be something like, you know what? Why would you want to do that? I'm gonna cook.
That's why I said
cook burgers for you anyway.
That's why I said it's not a pissing game to see who wins. To me, it's like trying to see if that person has the same foundational building blocks as you.
Right? Being vegan. If I'm not, I'm not gonna ask somebody else to do this.
Let's say you want to move off the grid and stop vaccinating yourself, and you want to be into yoga and all that. I bet you your wife probably will not be on the same page, right?
She doesn't have to be on this. She doesn't have to do it herself. But as long as she doesn't force me, say no, otherwise I'm going to leave you if you don't vaccinate yourself. That's messed up. But she'll always, if I say I'm going to go do yoga every morning, I don't want to be vaccinated, she'll say, okay, that's you.
That's great.
But I can't expect that from...
I didn't say she has to change. I said that would be a good test to do to see how much you guys are compromising for the sake of keeping yourselves together, and what is your actual building blocks really are. Because the more you compromise, I think you're just painting you're just bridging the little gaps, right? You're bridging the gaps that you have.
But your examples are very life-changing to the way you want. Like, let's get off the grid. Let's throw away the TV. Well, what if the other person, they can watch TV downstairs all they want.
They can.
I don't have to sit next to them.
But the amount of intimacy, which doesn't mean having sex, by the way, that's what I learned, is like the amount of things you have in common, and you can confide in each other about certain things, like emotionally, mentally, intellectually, all that stuff. If you're doing your own thing, and she's doing her own thing, and they're just total opposites, at what point does that become a intimate relationship or non-intimate relationship? Like our parents, like one of them was into reading books and wanting to be on TV and having his name in print, and the other one wanted to live a different type of life. And yes, they could have compromised. Oh, he likes to do that. He now likes to sleep in a separate bedroom. He now likes to hang out with his own friends. He no longer wants to eat at home with us. Like, eventually, all those things start eroding away at the relationship, or the foundation of it. So I'm just saying compromise is great. But I think every once in a while, you got to do what was that term I used, that John Taffer uses when he wants a stress test. To see, let's say, hey, honey, from now on, let's not watch TV. As a matter of fact, let's just turn off cable. Not to say you have to do it my way.
Well, turning off cable means you have to do it my way.
Yeah.
Well, not like she can say, for example, hey, honey, let's move to Iran and smoke hookah for the rest of our lives. And if he says, no, I don't want to do that, that means her foundational, her core things that are important is not important to him.
I see what you're saying. Even though I don't think I'd use that exact example, but I get what you're saying. I've seen two people live totally separate lives. Mom and Dad, this one goes out to you. Everything separate, totally different people, 100%, who they undoubtedly compromised through my entire childhood, and even now through my adulthood. They put in a certain amount of effort to try to connect with one another, but their still foundational pieces are very
different.
Like, if they were living to the max of who they really were, which I think is what your examples are trying to get at. That's why they're so extreme. If you turn the dial to 10 to put them on the most extreme version of who they really were, they would be not even in the same universe. And I think what you're saying is if you put that dial up to 10, your goal should be to be in the same universe. Even if it's not doing the exact same things, it should be to have the same foundational way of being inside.
Yeah, I think coexisting is great. Compromise is great. But I think from one, as you're growing up, like in the past 15, 20 years, I was a different person when I met Nona than who I am today. Mm-hmm. Even before the divorce, I was a different person that she met. She, the same thing. Like yesterday, she sent me a clip of her intro for a YouTube video. She's like, I don't even look like that anymore because I was in a different state of mind.
Yeah, totally.
So not that I want people to change or like, I think compromise is great. It's just like, creating all these, bridges between the, gaping hole that, is the two people. I'm saying, what if that was like more closely? What if you brought up the fact that, no longer does watching, the Real Housewives of Orange County no longer serves me. And she says, well, it serves me, right? Not that it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing that people have different tastes. But if you start going and like you find out that like I have these 100 things that are important to me and those 100 things, barely one or two of them she likes, then that means you're either keeping her from living her truth and her passionate life that she likes, or you're holding her back.
I completely agree. And I think I can only think of a couple of one exception to that, which would be, like Kevin said, if you actually enjoy the act of compromise, it could be pleasant. Some very rare personalities I've seen don't mind bridging the gap. They don't care if the universes are 10 miles away and it's a 10-mile bridge they have to walk. It doesn't feel like a compromise.
But I'm not even talking about the 10,000 mile difference. That's why I said, if the core things are there, I'm not going to compromise on the core things. But if the small things like food or, like for example, the cable TV, I get, but only in some senses. I love to watch basketball. That's all I watch. And if somebody told me, oh no, I'm going to take this cable away so you can't watch basketball, that would bother me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bother me that Orange County Housewives are gone, thank God. Judge Judy is gone, thank God. The bullshit news is gone, thank God. So to me, the compromise would be okay, we keep the TV, but I just want to watch the Lakers, No, I don't even I'm not a fanatic that have to watch every fucking game. Just have the pleasure of knowing if I turn on the TV and there's a big game, I can have my 2 hours of peace and sit there and watch something. So I don't compromise on big things. I compromise on the little things.
Yeah. Like a meal is not an inch.
I wasn't talking about it. I said the foundational things. Like I'm not saying like if you like hot dogs or like vegan cheeseburger, let's both have vegan cheeseburgers. That's just like dictatorship. Yes. I'm talking about understanding the building blocks of who you are, what your life's purpose and what your soul's purpose is. And a lot of people will not dig deep enough because they're
afraid they're going to find something.
They're going to risk losing the facade that they had on or the people around them. And I think you have to be in a mental space to do that. And sometimes it's an illness, sometimes it's a divorce, sometimes it's a near-death experience that you're going to have that you're going to say, wait a minute, I'm on this earth. And you've had people who have gone up to the other side and come back, and they've written books about it. They do go around and talk about that. My mission in life, like I was living a fake life. I thought that's how it should be because like everyone told me all these years, you have to be a husband, you have to be a father, you have to be and some of them are, great, you have to be certain things, but he or they weren't living their true purpose. And once you're given the choice, listen, you can get to live it right now and ascend to the next level of, spirituality, or once you die, you get to live in heaven or whatever it's called. Or you're going to come back in 25 years in another family, in another part of the world, as another being trying to ascend to that. So my thing isn't simple compromise, like, oh, you want to watch CNN, I'll watch MSNBC, and that's fine. I'm talking about the core things that you can measure. Like you said, your parents or my parents, they could have compromised the shit out of each other for the rest of their life and still been together, but none of them would have lived the life that they wanted to.
I think too much compromise is a disease. too little compromise is a disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to be in the middle. Like you said, the big foundational things, no compromise. But the small things, dude, if you want to be vegan, you be vegan. I'll eat my steak.
Yeah, no, those are just
I wouldn't even call those
choices.
compromises. I know what you mean when you say the word
You're
compromise.
like, if somebody says, no, I cooked you, you have to eat, and you feel like obligated, no.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
a
Those are
dictatorship.
choices. Like you have options. Like I'm not saying, and I think that
Or even your character. Not forget the items. Your character. I'm not going to compromise certain things. This is how I was brought up. No matter how you paint it, sorry, I'm not falling for it.
Right. I'm not saying you should change your character. My whole premise of this experiment was
I got it. It's
was to see what are the building blocks and how much, if you guys are compromising too much, I'm looking at both of you or like just people listening. If you're compromising too much and trying to live a different life, at one point, again, that trajectory correction is going to come into place. And the later in life and the least time you have left to really live yourself, you're going to like do some crazy shit.
For sure. We see that happen all the time. And I think another thing is, and maybe we can just combine this into 2 episodes, or I'm not, like, it might just be one big long one, because I have another tangent to go on that I think super relates to this. Can I go?
Yeah, of course. Go.
Okay.
We call it tangent.
It's a tangent. I think another big ol' elephant in the room, not this room, but when people are putting together a relationship, is that people don't know who they are. And one thing about Kevin, for sure, in my humble opinion, I'm Ho, as the kids abbreviate it, is that you know who you are very solidly, it seems to me. And I would say that in my time knowing you, you have decided who you are very solidly. I don't know if you were always like that, because the stories you tell, you sound like me when I didn't know who I was in past stories. And now I feel like I'm starting to solidly understand who I am, which makes a different kind of partner in a relationship. But I think when you enter a relationship and you don't know who you are, what you want, you're much more likely to compromise your character, your personality, your preferences, and everything. And then at some point be like, how did I get here? Who am I?
Yeah, because you go in as Play-Doh.
Yeah, Play-Doh. So if they're giving you like the round
I thought it
thing,
was Socrates.
I wish. Then we have all these wisdom relationships. If they give you that round thing with like the many little holes and you squeeze the Play-Doh through it, you're going to come out like spaghetti. And then they're like, no, I changed my mind. I'm going to put like the poop one in. And it's just like a big long turd. And then they squeeze that out. And like every time the partner with the stronger personality changes their mind about what they are, like you get squeezed into that. Like that's something I've done in the past. But I think that can lead to too much compromise, the disease of. And then the other person is not compromising enough. They come to expect it. They're like, wait a second, I said we're being vegan this month. What are you doing? And you're like, okay.
We're not talking about choices. We're talking about your building blocks. I'm not talking about choices. The thing that you said about Socrates, Plato.
By the way, the food was your analogy, so we just...
I tried to dumb it down for myself, not the audience. But I've heard people say, I have a roommate. People who have been married for over 20 years, they refer to their husband or wife.
As well.
I have a roommate.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right? I gotta just like play nice, like, you know, not say anything, zip up, and hopefully one day either she'll die or he'll die, and I'll fucking finally be able to live. And to
if
me,
you die, you can't live.
No,
Well,
they
no,
die.
they
The
die, right?
partner or the roommate.
so it's someone we both know. I'm not gonna name names. Actually, there's 2 people we know. I'm not gonna name names. They're older than us.
I know
Right.
people too.
And there's 2 pairs of them, 2 sets of them. And one of them, the mother that is now, you know, single, she's trying to make up for 20, 30 years of being unhappy and compromising and being in that relationship for the sake of the kids, not for the sake of, you know, what the society will think or whatever. Now she's like going the opposite way. Like the trajectory change is like so weird that someone at like age 65 or 70 is like doing that kind of a thing. And another person I know, a man, who also referred to his relationship as a roommate type of a situation. They also have all these Like they all used to like close their
Zip
mouth,
it for the sake
zip it
of
for the sake of keeping peace. And now that that relationship has ended, by the grace of God, he is like going.
And that's what I'm saying. If you look at yourself in the mirror and you have value for yourself, you don't care if there's no peace. You don't care if there's going to be turbulence. You don't care if it's going to be separation. Because you are proud of who you are. You'll speak up when you have to speak up. You'll voice your opinion. And you'll stand for what you stand for.
Yeah. But you can only do that if you know what you stand for.
Yeah.
And so many people don't know what they stand for. They enter as silly putty and they exit as silly putty.
Yeah.
And then I think they do that overcorrection piece because they didn't have time. This is something I observe with a lot of women in particular, because I think socially speaking, women get less training about discovering who they are. At least 20, 30 years ago, that was the case. And so I see...
Not in this generation. I mean, you watch some of these podcasts about, you know, OnlyFans and whatever. You got that crowd between 18 and 25 who are making, you know, money left and right. And they think they know everything.
Yeah, separate tangent.
Yeah.
Going backwards, though, to women who get married when they're 17, 18, then get out of their marriage when they're 40, they do like a 180 completely.
Yeah.
Different everything.
Yeah.
Exploring everything they possibly can because they had never any chance to figure anything out about who they were.
Yeah.
And I still see people doing that, especially people who are in like their 60s now.
And that's what he said. I think to his point much earlier, he said until he can find out who he is, fix all the issues, become a brick versus
Play-Doh.
putty,
Yes.
then he can be ready for a real relationship
Yes.
where he can be successful. But a lot of people don't do that. They go from like a monkey from one branch to the other.
Play-Doh
'Cause-
to Play-Doh.
Yeah, because God forbid they're alone and they have to sit there on Saturday night, you know, look at themselves and think.
There's a great quote that says, "Don't try to discover who you are. Instead, create yourself." I am just assuming, so please quickly and swiftly correct me, that you created yourself after the divorce.
I recreated myself.
Or
Yeah.
recreated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was a cast of characters in that marriage, and I was the easiest, most comfortable character in that dynamic. And there was a little bit of tension and a little bit of animosity being built up, resentment towards me, and I could feel it because I would take the easy route all the time. I would take the, oh, well, why are we like pushing ourselves to eat healthy? Let's just, or why are we like pushing ourselves to do this? So I saw myself going into a very submissive, blah role in that relationship. And I don't want to blame anyone, but I think sometimes when you marry someone who has a stronger personality, more of an alpha, you become beta-sized. Even if you were between alpha beta, you're like bouncing around, you were somewhere in the middle, you take that beta
Yes.
thing. And I read this or some guy talks about betazation through 1,000 concessions. And because I came from a family that my parents were divorced, I didn't want that to be, I didn't want to like create friction. So, hey, Ardy, why don't you like, you know, take your socks and stuff, that hamper, put in the other hamper. Okay. Right. I know those are trivial things, you know, compromise things, but after a while you become a different person. Yep. You no longer have that alpha male kind of a energy about you. You become the beta-sized, you know, submissive person. So for me, when I got out of the marriage, I'm like, how did I become such a, you know, weakling? And I'm like, I have no safety net now. Like, what am I going to do? Like, and that was my choice, to either succumb to all that stuff and like become more of a, you know, victim, or recreate myself to a point that none of this stuff would happen to me ever again. Or if it did, it wouldn't affect me as much. So I gave myself a couple of weeks to mourn the loss of my relationship. And I still have a choice, as I've said this many times, to sink, swim, or soar.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm going to fucking soar. You know, it's going to be harder because my wings are wet from all the tears and all that stuff. But you have to do it. You have to do it. And once you do it, then you'll realize the vantage point that you have is so much more empowering, because now you see things. You see yourself as a weakling that you were, as the person that had molded himself to like be a certain way. You see that.
And that's why I always do the mirror test. That's my way of seeing the weakling. That's my way of seeing the person. Because when I look at myself, I can't lie to myself. I see all the weaknesses. I see all the mistakes. I see all the shortcomings. I see all the parts that I kind of try to take a shortcut. And when I look at my face, I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing, you fucking weakling? Get your shit together. This is where you came from. This is who you are. You stick to those values. Let the chips fall where they may. You just be. I think I build myself little by little every time I look in the mirror.
And I think the barometer for me to know when I'm going off my course is stress.
Yes.
Right? Because when I'm like doing either, if I'm working or I'm talking to someone or I'm like engaged in some kind of a sub-Ardy situation,
yep.
If I start feeling stress, I know that that's the universe's way of saying you're out of alignment with what you're supposed to be doing. So anytime I feel stress, I'm like, why am I feeling stress? It's because something foreign, or I'm forcing something, or something's foreign is coming to my life. And after I see that and I have awareness, and I have to sometimes step away for like a day or two, not answer my text messages or go on Bumble or Hinge or all that stuff that I used to do, then I realize what the problem is. But you have to give in to the facts of life. And the facts of life is, and in my opinion, and Nona said this, she's like, your second long-term relationship or second marriage is going to be the best one. Because the first one, we're just learning about ourselves, and we're just trying to force ourselves into a round peg.
The Play-Doh thing.
We're just forcing ourselves to be that. But once you remove yourself a year and a half from a relationship, and you don't have anyone that's nice to lay down next to and have that safety net, it changes you. Like, it changes you for the better.
Yep. 100%.
Triple Shot Mindset.